And you are live.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone, viewers, participants. My name is Ainsley Francis. I'll be your moderator for the hour session. What we have going on here is a debate about, actually not really a debate, a little discussion for the members participating in this upcoming municipal elections. From our right, we'll have them introduce themselves, say a quick little bio, what district, what position they're running for, and a little about their background so we know a little about their character. So we're going to start off with Marcus to the far right.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcus James, and I am running for the African Nova Scotia seat on the Halifax Regional School Board. Over the last 25 years, I have worked in most of the black communities within HRM at some point in time. Former ceasefire staff member as well. Worked with them for a brief moment in setting it up. Chose to come back to the Halifax Public Libraries, where I've been for 23 years. Former chairperson for the Education Advisory Committee, held that position for 6 years, as well as sat on and organized the African Heritage Month Youth Weekend, which no longer exists, I'm sorry. Right. So there you have it.
Lindell Smith. Happy to be here. Thank you, ALI. Grew up on Goddard Street. I am running for Municipal Council, or Regional Council, District 8, Peninsula North in Halifax. Grew up in the district my entire life. Spent most of my time in childhood volunteering and giving back. Working on a project at North Branch Library, co-founded Centerline Studio. Worked on many community initiatives, sit on many community boards, Halifax Community Investment Fund, sat on Hope Blooms, North End Business Association. So my involvement with the community has been very, very vast, and I'm happy to potentially represent our district as the next council.
Hello everyone, my name is Shelley Fashion, and I'm running for Regional Council in District 2, which is Preston, Chesapeake, Eastern Shore. And I've been living in Lake Echo for the past 30-some years. I'm originally from Cherry Brook, Lake Boone. And I have been very involved in my community and the broader community as well, sitting on various boards. Currently, I sit on the African Nova Scotia Music Association Board. I sit on the Ujamaa Association Board, and I sit on the Charles Taylor Theatre and Media Arts Association. I'm very passionate about arts and culture. I also produce a 4-day festival in film and media, so that happens every April, and that's a cultural independent films production that we feel that we like to see stories from all cultures, particularly the African-Canadian stories. And so we tried to promote and create a platform for youth with that as well. As a matter of fact, Lindell here was one of our first technicians. So we really believe it's a platform to create youth brilliance in our community. What else? Oh, I was also on the board of the Halifax Regional Natal Day Committee, the Eastern Front Theatre Company, the East Coast Music Awards and Association, and the Masterworks Lieutenant Governor's Awards, and the Nova Scotia Arts Council. So I have a long history with the community. I've worked in also Lake Echo in the rec center as a part-time coordinator, and also doing a lot of youth programming there. So I'm here because I feel it's just a next step in terms of my evolution, and also in helping my community in a more meaningful way. I feel that the representation in my area is not what it needs to be. There's not the strong voice, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Viewers, as you can tell, each of these candidates have a remarkable experience and a wealth of knowledge, and they're both rooted in their community. So what we're going to carry on is have a nice question and answer. And each candidate will have a chance to answer the question I asked. So first up, the question we have, so viewers get a taste of why you're running. So why did each of you decide to run in the current elections? Think about, was it a build-up of
residents against the rezoning of the construction and demolition facility in my area. They were planning to put a recycling dump in the middle of a residential area, which was on the border of Porter's Lake and Lake Echo. So I became a part of that committee a year and a half ago. And that is what really was the impetus to move me forward, because we were not being represented. Our counselor came out and said he had to remain neutral, which meant we could not rely on him to bring our voice to the council. So we arranged and we organized the whole committee. It was 4 communities that came together: Preston, Minesville, Lake Echo, and Porter's Lake. We had demonstrations, we had waves, we had posters signed, initiative, and the place was plastered with our signs. No more dumps. And I mean, the community, we had community meetings, a series of community meetings. We had emails and a letter writing that went like, so all of this just boiled up into a point where someone has to come forward and represent this community and the other communities in a real, meaningful, relevant way. So I took on that challenge. That was my next
definitely
move.
going to be a big challenge.
Yes, thank you. So here I am.
Lindell?
For me, it started back in December last year when our current council, Jennifer Watts, put out a statement saying that she's not going to be reoffering for council, and that part of the reason for that is she needs to see more representation on council through diversity, and believing that since our city is growing, we should see a voice that represents what our city is today. So she decided that it was her time to step back. And in January, having conversations with some co-workers and community leaders and family members, and actually trying to find someone to fill that position, because I felt it needed to be someone from the community. But every time I went to someone to say, well, you'd be good for that job, they said, no, you would be good for that job. And it took some convincing, but around April, summers, I decided to make it real. And the reason why is I realized that there is that missing voice, not only a black voice, African Scotian voice, but there's a missing youth voice. There's a voice that's missing that understands the issues when it comes to development in terms of affordable housing, when it comes to how our children should be able to be in our community safe, when it comes to recreation. Recreation should be something that we support, because our young people need something to do. And just in general, understanding that our city has changed, and it's an old boys club, and that needs to change. And exactly. So for me, it really boiled down to all of these small little things made a volcano of, all right, I got to do this job, and I'm working hard towards it. I have the community background, I have the working background, I have the experience to do the job. And it's not, for me, it's not, I'm not applying for a new job. I want to continue the job that I'm doing, but on at a different table.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So for Marcus, before you answer this question, you might want to just give a quick little background to what position you're applying for those who may not understand what the board, the African Nova Scotian representative on the Halifax School Board, does for them.
Okay, basically I'm applying for the African Nova Scotia seat within the Halifax Regional School Board. And for me, excuse me, what that means is that you are the voice of all of our HRM communities, right? When it comes to the Halifax Regional School Board, when it comes to the educational system. And when I look over the years, what has been done, there's been very little progress, right? And for me, that's upsetting, right? We keep reviewing the reports that indicate, you know, there's a big issue with individual program planning, right? Suspensions, but there's no real talk with community when addressing these issues. And that, I truly believe that's the missing piece. right? So for me, it's, you know, Marcus, just don't talk about it, be it, right? If you're gonna talk about it, then you need to be willing to be that part also, right? And, you know, as Lindell pointed out, you know, there's great conversations between him and I when talking about him running for council, and, you know, he inspired me to do it, because I was there saying, you know, you gotta do this, you can do this, right? You know, this is you, right? Then when people approach me to consider the African Nova Scotian seat, and I'm like, no, my role has always been looking for that young person coming up, right? And looking for the appropriate person to do it, not realizing I can do it also. So the last 3 weeks, because I was a late entry, has been a real eye-opener for me in terms of how our educational system views our black learners, right? And I truly believe that the person who holds that seat needs to be 100% dedicated to that cause. That's my whole issue right there, right? You know, we need to be a voice. We need to address these issues, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is by partnering with community. Community has to be at the table in order for change to take place. And right now, what I'm seeing, and like I said, I realize that I have a long ways to go. I'm not an educator, but I am about community, right? And that will be the whole purpose of why I'm seeking that position, all right? It's all about community for me.
That's awesome. So viewers, as you've seen, the first question that I asked is why are they running for their positions that they indicated earlier? And as you can tell, it boils down to a build-up of issues, ineffective leadership in certain districts, and it's the time to make a person in that position dedicate to the cause to effect meaningful change. So next question, I just want to address it to the potential councillors. What key ideas are you going to bring to the next city council meeting that your voters should really choose you over the next person? So we'll let Lindell start this one off.
So there's so many, but when I'm thinking of the priorities, we're going through something called, for the regional center, the center plan. So that's downtown core, north end of Halifax, north end of Dartmouth, called the center plan, which is going to address a lot of our land use bylaws, our policies, anything around development and how we use our streets and our land and all that stuff. So for me, I want to be able to bring a voice that hasn't been at the table, because a lot of community feel like these plans are pushing us out, where in most cases they're not. But when you're not informing community how these things work, it will feel like that. In some of these cases, some of these plans could do that if there isn't a proper voice. So I want to make sure that when we're writing all these policies that we include community voices, but also inform the process so people understand. I want to see recreation become free. That's a really simple thing that we can do within our city. We have the budget to do it, and really it just takes a council that sees the importance of giving youth and young people the opportunity to be able to not have to pay to use our recreation centers.
Because the cost as well can be a barrier to those youth.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And growing up, that was a barrier. I could have done so much more if I was able to go to recreation and not worry about registration fee, which sometimes is only like $20, $25, but that's still a barrier for people who can't afford to spend that.
And to make your question, if the fee's that low, is it even worth having to pay at all?
Exactly. So there's that, and really just being, like everyone said, being that voice and putting issues forward that just haven't been addressed. And I know when people like Shelley, people like Carlos, me, Gabriel, there's so many forward-thinking people running for council, and if we all were able to sit at that table, we could change the way our city works.
Bold ideas. Shelley?
Well, unlike Lindell, I come from a rural perspective, rural and suburban. So I believe that the rural realities that we are faced with are very distinctive from the center plan policies. So we have to have a rural plan. That's really important. My district runs from Lake Major Road to Ecum Seacom. So in that whole landmass, there are people from lobster fishermen, there's, people who are involved in the lumber industry. We all share a lot of commonalities, even though we may have different types of walks of life. So all along the number 107, that's our commonality. We are all branches of that highway. And we are all, I think other than maybe North Preston, on wells. So one of my priorities is the environment. They need to not be able to slap a construction and demolition facility in the middle of a residential area. We need to look at strengthening our environmental bylaws. Like I said, we are all on a well system, so therefore we need to protect our water system. It doesn't come from the Halifax Water Commission, So that's one real strong priority for me is the environment and our waterways, our coastal waterways and our lakes. Another bus passes beyond my community, Porter's Lake, and goes right past our community to town. So we have till like 6 o'clock, and after that there's no bus. I mean, there's just no adequate transportation for people. And so that's a real barrier for people who want to work and don't have a car, who can't afford such a necessity living out in the rural areas. The other thing I think we need to look at, like I said, are the bylaws. Because what has happened with the amalgamation is the bylaws that were relevant to the Halifax city have become bylaws relevant to the rural area. Now Halifax is 80% rural, and these bylaws don't apply. For example, Save Rural HRM, which is a complete new movement down in the Eastern Shore, they're fighting the fact that they cannot build on their properties unless they have 100-foot road frontage. Now that may work in the city because there's probably no places like that, but in the country people have lots that are 25 and 35 and 100 acres wide, big. So they really need to look at what exists in our areas and really accommodate the people who live in those areas. Not everybody who lives in the rural area wants to live in town. Many people choose to live outside. And I've met some very progressive, modern, diverse people in all of these communities. It's crazy who's out there. There's so many amazing people in those communities, and they really just want to live and not be restricted by rules that came in before 1996. So that's another thing that I'm concerned about. The other thing, as Lindell said, is youth. Youth initiatives, youth programming, particularly in our cultural areas of North Preston and East Preston. There's not enough cultural programming for our kids. They're going to school, they're not learning about their histories, they're not learning about Africa, they're not learning about what they need in terms of their identity. So a lot of them are getting lost. A lot of them are not being able to build themselves up, have the self-confidence. It's amazing when they have things that they can identify with. Our Emerging Lands Film Festival, we have one night dedicated to the youth. And I'm telling you, the stories are brilliant from these young people. And some of them are so shy and so insecure that they don't even want to bring them forward. So we have to reach to them. And the other thing too, there's so many, as Lindell said, I can't.
But you definitely did a good job too. I survived a lot too much. So Marcus, you have a chance to answer the similar question, but you're running for the board. I'm just gonna revise it a little bit. So as you hopefully be elected, what key ideas do you think you can offer the school board as African Nova Scotian representative?
To be honest, I'm really not gonna get into that because I do have some key ideas. I really do. But I think at this point in time, I think it's really important to share that format at a later date, right? But however, what I do think is crucial is that, again, community being a part of the decision making. One of the things that we're seeing right now is that, and Lindell is a prime example of it, right? When community and educational system work together, you see the results. He's a result of that, right? So it's been proven that when our kids, I currently work in an establishment, which is the Halifax Public Library, it's in our North Branch, and I'm seeing our kids come through our doors, right, at the age of 5, 6, 7, and 8. And at the age of 19 and 20, we're still seeing them. So we're seeing that progress. So there's an opportunity right there to mentor and shape and guide the minds of those individuals coming in those establishments. And within our community, there are so many different resources available to our young people, right, that Halifax Regional School Board really needs to tap into. And they need to create that relationship so that they understand, they have a true understanding of what it is our black learners are going through on a daily basis. That's one of the things that's missing, that constant communication with parents, with community, with agencies within the community, right? There's no representation at the board level, right? And that has to change. If we want to improve our black learners and give them a fair opportunity and put them on a equal playing field, the same as other learners, then that's something that has to take place. So that's one of the things that I definitely will advocate for, is more community involvement so that parents have a better understanding of the dialogue that's being used, right, within our educational system, so that when they don't feel comfortable enough to go and speak to an educator, right, that there's somebody in the community that they can tap into and use as a resource to do that. And that's the type of bridge I would like to see. And right now, that's not happening, right? That's not happening. The people that are on the board right now are, you know, and I sometimes hate to say this, but they're a part of the establishment. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm not. I'm community, but that doesn't mean we cannot work together, right? As community, as you know, the board, Halifax Regional School Board, and look at ways to sort of get our young people, our black learners, where they need to be, right? And give them a fair opportunity to make sound decisions so that they can move forward in life and be successful. You know, one of the things that we have taken place right now in our community is a lot of violent crimes amongst young black men, right? Well, the Halifax Regional School Board really play a role in that. They really do. We need to change that, right? And the only way we're going to be able to do it is to have people like me sitting at the board level where I can help the Halifax Regional School Board to understand the type of environment, the type of issues that our kids are facing on a daily basis. So they have a better understanding, so they can share that knowledge with educators, who then will have a better understanding of our black learners in their classrooms, right? And they're able to reach out to them, and they're able to make more sound decisions in terms of what direction, what type of supports our black learners need.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, our candidates are all concerned about youth and the youth engagement. So it leads me to my next question. As we know, turnout for elections, whether it's municipal, federally, or provincial, is relatively low. You tend to talk about youth. You guys are concerned with youth and their engagement. So what are you guys going to do about encouraging that turnout to be better than last time to encourage the youth? We can start with Marcus. Sorry, picking on you again.
No, that's all right. Wow. For me, like I said, I'm all about community. right? And I know one of the first things that I would do is definitely establish a community consultation within all of our communities. The board meets once a month, right, other than when asked to meet more frequently. However, that gives me, as the African Nova Scotian representative, opportunity after opportunity to meet with our black communities to inform parents, our black learners, what discussions are taking place at the board level. Also, it allows them to share their issues, their concerns, right, that I can bring back to the table, right, and I can be that voice.
So more of like a direct community engagement?
So definitely that. You know, and that's, excuse me, you know, so for me, that's crucial, right? You know, I think that that's something that's not taking place right now, right? And that's something that has to change. That's something that community's been identifying, right? I think it's been identified at the board level, but for whatever reason, it's, you know, it's not being addressed, right? So that's one of the first things that I would like to do.
Linda?
Statistics prove that youth, especially in Nova Scotia, want to stay here, but they can't because they feel there's no opportunities. There's stats proving that youth from Nova Scotia feel that they can create a difference in Nova Scotia if they were able to stay here. And part of that, for me, is making young people feel they are part of the process, part of the system, and engaging them. So for what I'm doing for my campaign, half of it's already built in, being 26, being from the community, being involved with youth for a very long time. It's built in. So me putting my name forward has already created a mass of engagement from young people, because it's like, okay, you're in my class in terms of age, you care about the issues that I care about, you understand the struggles, I'm with you. But then also you have to branch out to those youth who feel that they don't have any say, they feel like there's no engagement, they feel like there's no hope. So we've been doing a lot of work with young people, just saying your voice is important, you need to make your voice important. It doesn't matter who you're voting for, but you need to be part of the process. You need to make sure you're voting for school board, you need to make sure you're voting for your next mayor, you need to make sure you're voting for your next councilor wherever you live, and really just putting it forward, especially with the online voting being such a huge part of how Nova Scotia, or how HRM, I should say, votes. That is a huge part of what we want to encourage people to do. And for us, voting starts Tuesday online. So time is ticking, and it's crunch time. So we really need to make sure that people know how to do it, and that encouraged to do it as well.
Shelley?
Well, it's more of a challenge for me, given my demographic is a little older.
They're quite spread out.
But I think myself, one thing that's really important is being engaged with youth. I myself, I'm in a lot of youthful venues and events. I'm there, and they see me. They kind of all come over and hug me. Glad to see me. I was at the Poets for Progress, and it's just like I'm just like mother to all these spoken word artists. Shelley.
Hi, Grandma.
So it's being with them and being interested in what they're doing. And so I've actually gotten Facebook messages from people saying, oh, I can vote such and such time online and I'm voting for you. And these are young people. And so if they aren't involved, you can see why. I mean, they're doing all kinds of young things, right? So they don't necessarily see the relevance to their lives, but if you can at least connect with them at some way, some of the young filmmakers I've sent messages to, oh yeah, Shell, you have our support. yeah, that's about it. You want to come out and help me canvas, but no, they're busy in the studios. So, but I'm very fortunate too, is I have 3 sons that were raised on the Eastern Shore. So, I mean, they were one of the 5 black families, so everybody knows them. So all of their peer groups are all connecting with me. Your Idris's mom, you know, your Corey and Colin's mom, and a lot of them are supporting me financially as well. So I've got that connection to them because they were raised in the Eastern Shore. They went to Gatesbrook High, they went to Muscatawbet High, and they were all very popular. And so, as a matter of fact, I've met some of their mothers through this campaign that I never met before. And there was a time, you know, I was a little iffy about them going to Muscatawbet and sleep-ins and stuff. But it's, you know, they're all kinds of friends. They're really friends. It's not about, and growing up together. It's very different. So I'm able to connect into Idris's, and they're all on the line. Everything is social media. So I'm very fortunate to have, you know, 3 sons that I love and everybody else loves.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear from your candidates, they're very concerned about youth engagement. There's a common theme from each perspective that rallies around having a connection, not just around election time, but being accessible, can't speak today, to them throughout the year, making that connection, being that community person you were prior to being your position. So that's very important, because that right there allows them to build that connection, as you guys mentioned, that your voice is worth putting forward. That leads into my next point. These are your voters, they're listening. Tuesday, they can vote online as earliest. Summarize your platform as to why they should vote for you. We can start off with Linda.
All right. So to the viewers and the voters of District 8, Peninsula North, me, hopefully as your next counselor, I want to advocate for affordability for our communities, which includes affordable housing, which includes making sure our land use bylaws include ways that our residents can feel included into our processes and understand how our city works. I want to advocate for safe and progressive communities, so making sure that our young people and our kids feel they can be safe on our streets, walking to school they feel safe, walking our residential streets, don't have to have the fear of cars running them over or anything like that. Our seniors, making sure they have safe ways to get around our communities, make sure that plowing and anything else that allows them to be able to travel within our communities are done in a way that is helpful to our communities. And also for the district, I want to make sure that development is done in a way that includes our historic values in our historic communities. And put our voice forward.
For me, first of all, I'd like to just encourage everybody to get out there and vote. I mean, you know, for African Nova Scotians, this is a historical year for us when it comes to the election. So get out there, support it, you know, be a part of it, right? You know, let's be a voice as one. Whether you're voting for council, whether you're voting for Halifax Regional School Board seat, get out there, be a part of it. I can't stress that enough, number one. Number two, you know, I guess I would say that for our black learners, it's a real crisis right now for them. And I think now is the time, and I don't think that we can afford another 4 years to sit around and wait for that change to come. I think it needs to happen now. I think people need to get out there and vote for me, right? So we can bring that change and start those conversations. You know, bottom line is that what's currently taking place is that the system is broken, right? And nobody's addressing that. And I know that's going to be an uphill battle, but guess what? It's a battle that we need to take on as a black community, right? Have our young people involved so that they understand that we do care. Right? We have too many young black men and women dying in our streets not to, right? And that's a direct connection to the importance of their education. And the board has to understand, the Halifax Regional School Board has to understand that they play a very, very significant role in that, when it comes to the education of our black learners, right? And the only way we're going to be able to get that point across is by people coming out, supporting me, electing me, making sure that I can be your voice at that table.
Shelley?
All right, I'm hoping that people will come out and vote. It's really very, very important, especially when I look at the current happenings, which is they have taken out the polling station from East Preston and put it in Lake Echo. Given the barriers around transportation, mobility for seniors, I see that as barriers to the process. Though they have been promoting, they want more participation from the electorate, that itself is a barrier and a concern for me in that area, that constituency. I think, so I have even systemic barriers and challenges in my running, but that's not going to stop me. I'm hoping people will come and vote for me because I feel that they need a voice that is accessible. Often people say that they cannot reach the current electorate. They leave messages, no one gets back to them. I want to be accessible to people. I want to be able to communicate with the whole constituency, and I want to make that a strong communication. I'm not just going to set up these HRM meetings where no one shows up, or the few that show up, only there's a few people that will speak out. I want to make it accessible to I'm going to go to your house. I'm going to go to the elders of the community. I'm going to go to the youth groups of the community. I want to go to them, not always them having to come to me. So that's really important to me, to be able to speak to everyone in my constituency. Also, as you know, I want to make transportation a really large issue, and also the environmental issues. Right now, if your lot is a certain amount, you do not trigger an environmental assessment if you're using it for industrial reasons. So anything under 40 acres won't trigger an environmental assessment. So what about those little lots that can have toxic things on it? It's got to be stricter environmental laws for our HRM, because it's all damaging. If we don't have clean water, we can't live. It's as simple as that, people. And so those are really important things to me. Accessibility, taking the mysticism out of the process. If you go to the HRM council, as a matter of fact, I went to one, and someone looked at me and said, "Are you lost?" I mean, should I hear that in the room of the HRM council? I said, yeah, I am feeling a little lost. I said, but I shouldn't. What kind of way is that to be treated?
2016.
So, I'm passionate.
One way voters like to know who their potential representatives will be is reaching out. What are the tools you're currently using to reach out to the citizens, the voters? We can start off with Lindell.
There's many tools. There's so many tools that we have today that it makes reaching out to voters very, very rewarding. So one of the biggest tools is just face-to-face. For the past 3 months, I've been knocking on doors every day, 2 times a day straight, trying to reach as much of the district as I can, meeting people face-to-face, having those conversations, those meaningful engagements that make people want to actually not only engage themselves in the process, but understand who's running. Like I said, it doesn't matter who you're voting for, but you should understand what is happening through our city, and you should understand, and you should meet the person that's running. So for me, it's been meeting people at the doors. Social media, of course, is a huge thing. So I've been using that a lot to reach a lot of people. We've built a network where we engage many people. When we released our campaign video, 50,000 views in 24 hours. Which shows that people are excited about not only my campaign, but are excited about what's happening with our city.
That's awesome.
So there's many tools.
Michelle, what tools are you using in your campaign to get your message out?
Door to door.
The traditional one.
However, sometimes the doors where I'm at go from here to like 1,000 feet away. So I'm almost door to door and driving at the same time.
Okay.
So, but it's wonderful to do that. I cannot reach all of the areas, but I plan to reach as many as possible door to door. I also do a lot of events. So yesterday I did fundraising, auction, hootenanay. Lake Pub. So we had a fundraiser, and we also had a fun time with the Natural Talent Band, and I go to a lot of events in the communities, the suppers, the breakfasts. So it's starting to get a little larger, but it's so much fun meeting people through those types of access and things, and debates. I've been involved in 2 debates so far. So I want to be able to let as many people know about me as possible. I use social media a little bit, not all that I could use.
Well, that's fair enough.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm terrible. I'm so much on Facebook.
It's definitely tailored to your campaign, your constituents, right? If they don't
Yeah.
use social media, you're not going to use it as means to get your message out.
So I've gone also to community associations. I spoke at the East Preston Seniors Association, which was a beautiful event. Again, food. So I'm just having a great time meeting folks.
So Marcus, will let you have the last bit.
Again, I have flyers out as well as signs out in all the communities. I'm a little bit broader because I'm representing all of the black communities within HRN for the Halifax School Board. But again, like Shelley, I think it's important, and Lindell, I think it's important that face-to-face. And for those who know me, they understand that's who I am. That's me at my best, is face-to-face, having those conversations. And everybody in the room at one point in time or another have had these conversations, right? So this is who I am. This is my strength right here, is sitting down, having these conversations. But again, through social media, I'm being told Facebook is for old folks now, right? But I've always communicated through Facebook. I learned a lot over the last 3 weeks, right, in terms of Twitter, all of it. But for me, it's really about getting out, having those one-on-one conversations. There are some events that I'm attending on this week. I have attended some in the past within HRN Black communities. Tomorrow I'm actually north in Halifax, so I encourage people to come out at 6 o'clock in at the Parent Resource Center, right, in Uniac Square. So I will be there, right, as well as the other candidates as well. So if any questions, feel free to drop by and support that. As well as on Wednesday, I'll be over in East Preston, my hometown, right? So there's other events coming up as well. So as I said, for me, it's going out door to door, having those conversations. You find that you're going there with the intentions to sort of just promote who you are and what you're running for and why, but that turns into having supper, oh, want to come in, Mark?
Come on
seen you in
in.
a long time, right? But you know what? It's all fun and games. It really is. I'm loving doing it. Never seen myself doing this right up until 3 weeks ago, but I welcome the challenge. Anybody who knows me knows that I welcome the challenge, right? I do not back down, and this is way too important for me to sort of fail at it. I refuse to accept failure. I really do.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank each of the candidates for coming out, and for our viewers at home, thank you for tuning in live for the ALI event. So thank you.
We have one question. If people want to find out about your campaigns, where can they find you online?
You can find my website, which is marcusjames.ca, all lowercase letters. Right, there's a website. Feel free to comment. My personal phone number is there because I feel that only I can represent me, and I like to talk to people personally.
You can find me online, LindellSmithHFX.ca, LINDELLSMITH, HFX.ca. Everything social media is Lindell Smith HFX, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything that you can find online, Lindell Smith HFX. And info@LindellSmithHFX.ca for email, and if you can see me anywhere in the community.
And I have a website, voteforshelley.ca, and my email, okay, my spelling of my name is SHELLEY. And then my email is shelleyfashion@bellalliant.net, and my Facebook is Vote Shelley for District 2, and my phone number I have on my brochure. Don't have a Twitter.
No, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.